we give a warm welcome to Will Holland, CFO at Europa Oil and Gas, who joins us live this evening. AIM-listed EOP has a mixed portfolio and is producing oil onshore UK with a 30% non-operated stake in Wressle. Europa also have a 25% stake in UK Offshore Serenity and are farming out part of their stake in the low-risk Irish Sea gas field Inishkea. Will Holland, CFO, will update us on development plans across the portfolio. Welcome, Will.
Thank you, Donald. Good evening. Good to be here. I will do, yes. So thank you. I assume everyone can see my screen. Now, this is actually going to be posted up on our website at the end of this presentation. So I'll allow people to read through the disclaimer at their own leisure rather than going through it at this particular moment. So that takes me on to sort of slide 2, which is who are we? Who is Europa? Well, we are an AIM-listed oil and gas company. We have a market cap of £12 million, and we've got what we believe is a diverse portfolio of assets. Now, those assets consist of producing assets, which are onshore UK, 2 of which we operate, and are producing significant cash flows at the moment with upside development, which has already been planned, and I'll talk about that later on. These assets do generate very valuable cash flow for us. It covers our costs and allows us to reinvest that money in the ongoing development of these fields. In addition, we have appraisal assets. We have the Serenity field, which is offshore UK, which we farmed into last year and have a 25% working interest in that. And I'll talk about that. We drilled an appraisal well last year, the end of last year, and I'll talk about what the results of that appraisal well mean and how we take the asset forward from here. And then in addition, we have our gas exploration asset offshore Ireland. This is we own 100% of this, and it has some very material prospects in the license area. And we've just started a farm out process for that. So I'm going to go into that farm out process and just explain why we think it's such an attractive asset and why we think we'll be able to attract a farming for that asset. I want to also talk a little bit about our business development. We are actively looking for new assets. It's been our stated strategy for a number of years now that we were looking to find more appraisal style assets. And we did apply with that in mind. We did apply during the 33rd round recently, which is now closed, and we're looking forward to hearing the results in the coming months. So moving on, first of all, onshore UK. This picture here is actually a picture of the board visiting our Wressle site. So we do make a conscious effort as a board to visit the sites, and you'll see from the board profiles, we are all oil and gas specialists, professionals that have been in the industry for our entire career. So Wressle, onshore UK. Onshore UK, there are 4 sites. 2 of them we operate, first is Crosby Warren. We also operate the West Fursby field, and then we have 2 non-operating fields, Wisby 4 and Wressle. Now, with Crosby Warren and West Fursby, they provide us with very stable cash flows. The fields are in stable production and are continuing to perform. Wressle is our star asset, without a doubt. It's where the majority of our production comes from. I'll talk about it at the next slide, but this has exceeded our initial expectations when this was brought online. And we're now, as we announced at the beginning of the year in our operational update, we're about to undertake a development program on this asset with our partners there. This involves developing not only the existing infrastructure and monetizing the gas, but also for drilling some additional wells. And monetizing the gas, this is going to happen in a couple of phases. The first phase is actually using the existing gas to generate site power. So we will generate all of the power we need from micro turbines on site. That means that we won't have to rely on grid power anymore. And the second phase of that will be to install 1.75 megawatts of power generation, electricity generation, that will then connect to a local grid. And the third phase of that, when we bring on the Penistone horizon, will be a pipeline connected to a local grid. Now, what's important about this gas monetization solution is that we've first of all, we're monetizing a product which otherwise would be burnt as a waste product. That's not good from an environmental standpoint, but also it's not good financially either, because we would like to monetize that. So we found monetization solutions, and that actually allows us to produce more oil as a result. So revenues should kick up significantly once we get these two phases complete. And the second phase, the gas to wire project, we hope to be complete before the end of the first half of the year. So let's look at the Wressle field in general and the development of it and what we're talking about. So just to place everybody first, at the far left of the slide, you'll see the grey area. That's the outskirts of Scunthorpe. So we're close to Scunthorpe, and then to the north of that, you'll see the Crosby Warren field. We operate that as 100% Europa. Then, as you can see this trend, and that's quite a simplified map, but this is the Namurian carboniferous sandstones that we're mapping here. And you'll see this trend that goes from our 100% operated field at Crosby Warren all the way down the southeast towards the Brig Oil discovery, which is a Union Jack Egdon operated field. And in the middle there, you've got Wressle and Broughton. And that's what we're targeting. So Wressle 1 well, that's the one that's currently in production. Let me just talk about these numbers first. So all of the numbers here are from 2016. So they're quite old numbers, but they're independently audited numbers. So ERC, which is a specialist reserves auditing company, have audited these numbers. And CPR means Competent Persons Report. They provided this independent competence persons report that has given us these numbers for Wressle and for the Broughton North prospect. Now, for those of you who've been following our story, you'll know that we've been producing these fields very, very well. The Wressle well has produced well. It's gone beyond our expectations. So these numbers are out of date, and we have commissioned a new report with our partners to be conducted over this area, which will provide us with updated numbers. We hope to have those available to release in the coming months. But what the report will also contemplate, it'll contemplate the development plan as well. And this is a development plan we announced earlier in the year, but that will be a 3-well program. So two of these wells will go into the Penistone horizon. So the Wressle well is currently producing out of the Ashover grid. As you can see from these numbers, the Penistone horizon has got more than 3 times the reserves potential than the Ashover grid does. So there's 2 wells that are going to be drilled into that. One of those wells will come from the existing pad, the Wressle 1 pad. The other 2 will most likely have to come from a different pad further to the north. But from that pad, we can also access the Broughton North exploration well. So over the next 18 months or so, we would hope to get those 3 wells drilled. So 2 development wells, 1 exploration well. This is all subject to permitting and planning permissions, but we've already secured those for Wressle, so we have a precedent, so we expect them to be forthcoming. So exciting times. One important point to note here is that all of this capital deployment will all go towards offsetting the EPL, the Energy Profits Levy, which is also known as the windfall tax, which has been recently implemented. So by drilling these wells, the profits that we're generating in Wressle will be shielded from this tax. So that provides further value. Okay, moving on to our offshore. This is an appraisal asset. Now this picture here is of the Stena Don, which is the rig that actually drilled the appraisal well in the summer. So let's look at that field and what that meant and what we learned as a result of drilling that well. But we farmed into this opportunity. We farmed into an appraisal opportunity because the field had already been discovered. So let's place it first. The bottom right-hand part of the slide, you'll see the coastline of Scotland with Aberdeen and Fraserburgh marked there. The insert that we've zoomed into, if you look where that is, it sits between 2 oil fields. It sits between the Captain oil field and the Blake oil field. Blake Tain oil field. Blake has been on production for a number of years. Tain has been discovered, but it hasn't been developed yet. We are drilling the field adjacent to Tain. The discovery well was drilled in October 2019. It found 11 foot of sand, good quality oil, excellent reservoir quality. Now, when we farmed in and drilled the appraisal well, the S2 well, as it's marked on the map there, with i3 energy. The risk here was that the sands would not be present. This is a stratigraphic trap, so we can't see a rollover. It's difficult to establish exactly where the sands pinch out. So the risk was that these sands would have pinched out and we wouldn't have the oil wet sands. Unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. It was a good chance. We had about a 50-50 chance of success. So the risk-reward proposition was actually very good. But it's the oil and gas business, and sometimes they don't come in. And this one was one of those occasions where it didn't come in. So we subsequently recalibrated our subsurface model, and we said, okay, well, what from what we know from drilling this well, what have we got in this field? We know that we've got a discovery well. We recalibrated our model. We know where the oil water contact is. On the insert where it says OWC 5270, that's the regional oil water contact 5270. Now you can see the black line that sort of crosses the contour lines of the structure map coming up between the S1 and the S2 well there. That's where we believe the sands pinch out. Now, in recalibrating our model, we said, actually, this looks like it's the same field as the Tain field, which is right adjacent to. So all of those wells which say 1323B, they are the Tain wells. And we now believe that we have a single field here and that Serenity is actually part of Tain, in which case we have a unitisation opportunity. And now unitisation is you simply, for those that don't know, you simply take the volumes of the accumulation in your license and the volumes of the accumulations in the adjoining license. You combine them together and you use those volumes as a way of determining the net interests of the partners, of each of the partners in the unitised field. And then you develop the field as a single field rather than as individual fields. Now, I'll just move on to the next slide because I recognise I'm talking to the next slide now. Our partners are operating this, i3 Energy, and we're approaching the operator of Tain, which is Repsol Sinopec, and we're in discussions with them at the moment. So let's see. Hopefully, it will be a unitisation opportunity, in which case we're looking at developing the field together. If not, then we are looking at a tieback to Tain. Either way, we're looking at probably 11 to 20 million barrels in place on our side of the field. So with a 50% recovery factor, we're talking sort of 5 to 10 million barrels of oil recoverable. To us, that's a material amount, and initial production from one well development on our side, we'd probably see about 1,000 barrels of oil a day net to Europa. Moving on to Ireland. So this is a nice picture, but this is not what you would see offshore Ireland. So the field is 50 miles offshore. Any sailor will tell you that the horizon limit is 12 miles. So you wouldn't see the rig, but it's a nice picture and it looks a bit like Ireland. So we put it in there. Let's look at the detail. So here's Ireland, a map of Ireland. Over on the west coast, we have, this is where we focus in on the insert. There we have the red license, which is a Corrib field operated by Vermilion, tied back through an existing pipeline to the Ballinboy gas terminal. This then feeds the Irish network, and importantly, this is the only domestic source of gas that Ireland has. The rest of the gas comes from interconnectors from the UK. So strategically, this is a very important asset. And you say, well, what else is there around Corrib? Really, when you look at the licenses, we are the only license adjacent to it, and we have two very material prospects in there: 1.5 TCF Inishkea prospect and 800 BCF Inishkea West prospect. Now, why is it strategically important? Well, the Irish government have recently announced that they are going to install an additional 2 gigawatts of power, gas-fired power to help with their energy demand. But where they can get that gas from, the Corrib field is in decline. They either import it from the UK or they develop it domestically. Now, I'll talk a little bit about the environmental impact later on, but there's a massive environmental impact of producing domestically versus importing, and it's a huge disparity between what the emissions associated with what they would import versus what they could produce domestically. So we started we've got we're in the first phase of this license, and we're now looking to farm it out, and we're trying to find a farm-in, and we're targeting an exploration well next year. So that once we farmed it out, and we think we've got an excellent prospect here. I'll talk about it on the next slide. Once we farmed it out, we would look to be getting a commitment to drill the well in 2024. So when we look at the field and we look at the potential of this field, I'm going to take you to the smallest part of this slide first, and that's the map of the Corrib field and the prospects next to it. It's the insert within the profile map. Now that shows the existing Corrib field, and it shows that to the northwest of that, there's the existing Corrib North discovery. It's not been developed yet. And then directly to the west of those, you're looking at Inishkea and then Inishkea West. Now, what's important about this is it's all in the same trend. This is near field exploration, still exploration, but typically exploration, you're looking at a 1 in 10 chance of success, which is why we don't typically focus on exploration. We're looking at either near field exploration or development or appraisal development. Near field exploration, that chance reduces significantly, and here we're looking at probably like a 1 in 3 chance of success. So it's the same field, it's the same horizon, sorry, not the same field, same horizon, same reservoir, same trapping mechanism, and same kitchen. So then the chances are very, very good. And if they're the size that we think it is, and we get a successful discovery well on the back of a farm out, this would be very material. Now, I did talk about emissions earlier on. Down at the bottom of this slide, I say that we've had an independent assessment of the emissions associated with Inishkea, and they would be 3 kilograms per BOE. Now, bear in mind that the LNG that we import from the USA that comes into Milford Haven, that then goes through all of the pipelines into Ireland, before it gets to Ireland, those emissions are 145 kilograms per BOE. So that's 2%. The Irish emissions will be 2% of that gas coming in from the USA. So a very environmentally friendly product. So we're very excited by this. It's an amazing prospect, and we look forward to updating the market of our progress with the farm out.
2 minutes to go, Will.
When we look at our other business development, I recognise that time is tripping on, so I'm just going to talk very quickly about this. We are looking for other opportunities. I did say we participated in the 33rd round. These numbers are from the North Sea NSTA, what was the OGA. This is their numbers, 6.4 billion barrels of discovered undeveloped resources. That's what we're chasing. The skills you need is to understand what of those barrels are good, attractive, good risk reward barrels versus they're contingent for a reason. We think we've got those skills in-house to recognize those opportunities and then get access to them. And we hope to update the market more of those in the future. The next slide on our financial highlights, these are all in our annual report. So I'll let you look at them at your leisure, and this presentation will be on our website later on after this presentation. But the bottom line here is we're fully funded with no need for any additional equity raises for our existing portfolio, and there's plenty of additional cash generation to come from our existing capital program for 2023 and 2024 beyond that. Quickly on the board, you'll notice that everybody here is pedigree oil and gas. We've been around. I mean, although I don't talk about it, I'm actually technical myself. I was originally an engineer looking at extracting more oil from oil and gas wells. I moved away from that into financing them. But we, as a board, we have a very good, diverse skill set. We're able to recognize these opportunities and then get access to these opportunities and structure a good deal. looking to drive value based on good risk reward propositions. And in the back of our mind the whole time is ESG. It always has been. People think this is a new concept, ESG. It absolutely hasn't been. Governance has been a very strong part of the oil industry for a long time, as has the social impact of us. And we're very strong on those benefits. And environmentally, we are looking to develop hydrocarbons, domestic hydrocarbons. We're not looking to export them. We're looking for domestic supply, to supply domestic markets. So it's the shortest supply route to market possible, which is more environmentally friendly and in line with the government strategy of producing domestic hydrocarbons. So I recognise I've whizzed through the last few slides a bit. I'll finish on the picture of Wressle again, and I'll just highlight that we are on social media, on LinkedIn and on Twitter. So please follow us. We're active on that, and we'll keep you updated of news beyond what we obviously put out on the RNS service. Thank you, Donald. Hope I didn't overrun.
No, you're perfect. Okay, well, let's cut to the chase. Wressle is your star asset. What about if we start and ask you to tell me what the news flow in the coming months from Wressle is likely to be? That whole development space there.
Absolutely. So the first part of that will be the gas monetization part. So we have, and those of you who are on our LinkedIn and Twitter feeds will have noticed that the micro turbines are in place. They're just currently being commissioned. So once that commissioning process has started, then they'll come online. We'll see an uplift in our current production. We're currently producing around about 850 barrels of oil a day. That's gross production. So we'd expect to see that increase with those micro turbines coming online. The next thing you would see, planning permission is hard to determine, and environmental permitting is hard to determine, but we're going through that process. And as soon as we've got those permits in place, then we would obviously announce that as well. But then it would be the gas to wire, the 1.75 megawatts of power generation that we'll put on site and connect to a local grid, which will again increase production and then monetize that gas as well, importantly. And then towards the end of the year, once we've got the permits in place, we'll be looking to drill the first Penistone well, which will be a very material well, should come from the Wressle site. And then we'll be looking to build the pads and then do the other two wells in 2024. So a very exciting year on continued cash generation, continued profits.
Okay, and why do you see Inishkea as a game changer? Well, could you put Inishkea in context for us? That 1 in 3 chance of success into context for us?
Yeah, so this comes down to the balanced risk reward to start off with. So we have an asset here which we think is a 1 in 3. The upside is tremendous. If you look at the value of gas in the ground, how close it is to Corrib, it's only 10 kilometers tie-in, so it's very quick to tie in a discovery into Corrib and get it into production, monetizing it. Often fields of this size can take many years before you can start to actually develop them. We think, we know that once we make a discovery here, it'll be relatively quick to get this tied in. And then you look at the volumes. We've got 2 TCF of gas close to existing infrastructure, which will be on production quickly. We haven't farmed it down yet. So let's see what type of deal we can cut. But if you look at metrics, what you would expect a farm out to look like, the residual amount that we would be left with, that would be carried through the exploration well cycle for that, a success on the back of that would be a game changer for the company. The share, you'd expect to see a very material increase in share price.
Okay. Tony Nordstrom asks, is Europa in discussions with any party in regards to a farm into the Irish gas assets, even at a preliminary stage? So I thought I'd ask that at this point, given that we're discussing Inishkea.
And so we announced we've started to farm out the asset. So we've brought on a specialist company called Lab Advisors. They've been farming out oil and gas opportunities and they're very, very experienced in it. The company itself is relatively new, but the principals, the people involved in it have been doing it for many, many years, and they all come from oil and gas. So in this industry, a lot of it's about network and being able to understand the risk and then being able to present the risk properly. So Lab are involved in it, and they have an excellent network of people. We have a very good network ourselves, but we are including them to expand that network to make sure that we include as many people as possible that could be interested in this, so we can get the best deal we possibly can. Now, we started that process in January, and yes, we have engagement already. Now it's preliminary. We're at the start of the process. So it's, these processes can take several months, and we wouldn't look to close a deal probably for at least 6 months. But this we're at the beginning, and yes, there is
a data room right now.
So there's a data room open. There are people in the data room.
Great. Philip Trett asks, what are the positives shareholders can look forward to in 2023?
Well, I mean, sticking with Inishkea, I hope we will be able to announce a farm-in of that this year, and that will do a number of things. One, it'll provide a sort of a third-party acknowledgement that it's there, that it's a good quality prospect, that actually other people in the industry like it, and they like the risk reward that it represents. And then all of the other macro factors over the top of that as well. So just by achieving a farm-in, and that farm-in, we are looking for a full carry. So that means that we've got somebody who's committed to drill a well, and we will be carried to drill that well. That in itself will provide a value drive, even before we've drilled the well. Then drilling the well, that'll be the year after. But we hope to farm it down this year, which will provide the initial uptick. And then we're looking at all of the operational activity around Wressle as well, and getting the planning permissions we need, and mobilising the rig and drilling the first Penistone well. And in addition to that, we've got Serenity, and we hope to have said this is the monetisation solution for Serenity. We don't know what that's going to look like yet. We're in negotiations. Let's see see how that pans out. But once we have certainty of that, announcing that to the market so people know, okay, this is going to get developed, this is how it's going to get developed, that will also drive value.
A quick question just in from Keith McDonald. Are you having difficulties getting your Inishkea licence progress similar to Badero Energy, who were delayed by the DEC in Ireland?
Well, so very, very good question. We actually got approval for our extension in January. So actually, was it January or was it December? I can't remember. Sorry, but it goes through until the license goes through until January 2024. So we have recently got approval to have our extension, and I think I can't talk about other people's assets, but for our asset, when you look at the opportunity that it provides for Ireland, and I'm calling it a strategically important asset for Ireland, because I believe it is. And I think that's why the government has said, okay, we'll grant your license. And it's a valid license. We can opt to go through the phases. So the next phase at the end of January 2024 is to opt to go into the next phase. That will automatically happen if we choose to go into the next phase.
Last question, Will. Sorry to interrupt you. The last question, let's quickly squeeze in another. I've got a couple of questions here about the share price. Do the directors believe that YOG is currently undervalued? And I suppose the short version of Tim Lang's question is, can you rule out another dilutive fundraise? So you mentioned in your presentation that everything that you've got planned is fully funded. Take it away.
Yes, we are fully funded for our current operations, but we are, as I said, also we're looking for new opportunities. Now, if we find a new opportunity which we think the risk-reward proposition is good, and it requires additional capital, then yes, we would come back to the market. But at the moment, there's absolutely no plans for our current development program. We've got no need to go to the market. We're fully funded for that. Ask about the share price. There is no value in this share price for the Wressle development. I don't think there's no value in our share price for Inishkea farm down. There's no value in our share price for the development of Serenity. So if you think that those things are going to happen, each of those are value drivers for our share price over the course of the next 12 months.
So you see plenty of upside, Will?
I see lots of upside. Yes, I absolutely do.
Okay, we're out of time. Will Holland, CFO at Europa Oil and Gas, you're a complete star. Thank you for sharing all that with us. That's absolutely brilliant.
Thank you, Donald.